All right, guys, welcome back to Breakdowns and Bets. I'm Santino DeFranco. With me, as always, is Brandon Olivas. And it's been a little while. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done one of these. I was on MMA Lock of the Night, so we didn't do one that week. And then last week, there was no fights. It's been a minute.
We're getting
We
rusty.
are getting
We
rusty.
got to make sure we're on top of
I
our
don't even know what
game
we're
here.
doing now. What show is this anymore? Like, I forgot. Lost my whole train of thought.
I thought this was just a Jay-Z tribute video.
But I don't know if you guys can kind of see maybe in the background, maybe we'll see if it's cropped out or not, but that is the reflection of my Christmas tree, because we put our Christmas tree up before Thanksgiving before Thanksgiving even happened. I think it was like I think like the moment Halloween ended, my wife was like, let's get the Christmas tree up. I'm happy about that because now this week I feel like I'm ready for Christmas, and this show is a good Christmas show because this is a moneymaker.
That is very true that you say that. So looking down the line, so guys, we just kicked off our exclusive Patreon. I'm super excited about it. Basically all the stuff that I'd been doing, now it's open to the public. So you can just go on and take a look at all the content that we have, that we're putting, picks, everything like that. But right before Christmas is Titan FC, which is probably my favorite event to bet on ever because it's the most inflated, pumped up matchups. And this card to boot is the craziest one yet. And that is December 17th. So that will pay for everybody's Christmas presents all in one swoop.
I love it. Titan is the best of the A side, B side. You know exactly what you're getting there. I'm surprised that they're doing lines on Titan because you always know who wins, and there's generally some pretty good odds. But before we get into all of that, before we get into fights, before we get into even more, you guys, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like us, share, all of that stuff. And as Brandon mentioned, we now have our Patreon, which will be there will be a link on the screen here, and there will also be a link in the show notes below us. So if you want to get behind the scenes footage, some extra breakdowns, and then an extra whole vlog podcast on the regional shows, which is really where you make all of your money. That's really where not all of your money, but a good majority of your money comes from the regional shows. So get Brandon's picks on the regional shows, get all of our actual picks for the fights that we're doing, and just get a lot more. We appreciate it. You guys have been awesome, and so definitely go check us out. What's your thoughts on this upcoming card? We have Rob Font and Jose Aldo at the Apex without a crowd in a small arena. What are your initial thoughts on this? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you love it?
Main event or card
as a whole? Or main event?
Yeah, I love this card for every single reason. So this has great fights to bet on. This has great fights to watch. Like as a fan, as a bettor, this card kind of has everything for me. This is a really nerdy card. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, I'm happy about this card too. And it's funny because lately we've been seeing these cards without all these names, and with matchups they have a main event, and we're not really interested in the card either from a betting standpoint or from a fan standpoint. I like this one on all ends. I think it's a mix of up-and-comers, names, exciting fights, exciting bets, and then the main event, of course. So I like this card from head to toe, or from toe to head. We usually go bottom up, and but either way, I love it all around. Can't wait to bet it. Can't wait to watch it, and can't wait to make money off of it.
Well, let's kick it off. Let's do a little different this time.
What are we doing?
From the bottom. Let's start with Luis Smoka.
Isn't that what we always do?
No, we've been switching it from main event going back down.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wait a minute. What are we doing differently here? Okay, Luis Smolka. Sorry, I'm pulling everything up here. Luis Smolka is fighting Vince Morales. Morales is listed as a wrestler. Did you know? I don't know if I saw this in research, or if I just they mention it online. But he was a state champion wrestler. Were you aware of that?
In Idaho.
Which has legitimately some decent wrestling. So I was shocked to hear that, because I'd be shocked to hear if this guy knows how to spell wrestle, let alone how to actually shoot something.
Was that satire when you just said Idaho like good wrestling, or you're being
No,
serious?
there's seriously like they're not bad wrestlers. I mean, they're not. It's not Hawaii. I mean, they have some decent wrestlers. You see some guys, and the thing is, Idaho, you know, I mean, just geographically, I mean, they've got some good tournaments up in Denver. You've got some stuff. Oregon has really solid wrestling. Washington has really solid wrestling. So you get a lot of guys coming up and down in and out of Idaho. I mean, it doesn't have a huge population, but the guys aren't bad. It's not like horrible wrestlers out of Idaho. Boise, I mean, just alone, I mean, you got I don't know. I mean, decent wrestling. So it's shocking. I mean, I don't know how many divisions they have, but they're they're not the worst in the state, or I mean the state in the country. And but honestly, if you're a state champion anywhere, you're probably at least somewhat a decent wrestler. And Morales seems to
I don't know about that. I've wrestled a few state champions in my day. I didn't even place, and I was throwing them on their heads. So I think it's relative, and I think MMA is a lot
it
different.
definitely is. But you know, I mean, Morales, he really doesn't. He has kind of a bad fight IQ. He doesn't fight well. He'll pull guard. He'll pull or not guard, but he'll pull guillotines and sit on stuff where he really shouldn't. Um, his cage wrestling is not what you would expect it to be. Somebody fighting in the UFC, and I just don't know how. I mean, what does he do to win this fight? I mean, he looks the part. He gets out there. He looks patient. Um, he's got a good reach. In theory, you know, you watch him a little bit, and then it's almost like he just forgets to fight. Whereas Luis Smolka, I mean, he's all fight. He's in your face fighting the whole time. He's got decent cardio. He attacks the body well. He's throwing flurries to it, and it's just in your face. Um, I like him. His wrestling is not great, but he does a good job of scrambling, wiggling, getting either back to his feet or attacking from the bottom. Um, he's not overly athletic. He just kind of plods forward like a zombie, and but he's down to fight. He's got pretty good cardio for he's not world for a Hawaiian.
For
Yeah,
Hawaiian.
exactly. Pretty good cardio for a Hawaiian. Um, but man, he goes out there and fights his ass off, and I think honestly this is almost a gimme fight for Smolka. Maybe get him back on track. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. So I this was the first one I started with, right? Because it's listed at the bottom. And I'm watching Luis Smoka. I'm like, man, he's so slow. He's so slow. And I'm trying to think, like, okay, how can I make Vince Morales this like stud pick, like this great underdog that I can choose this week? And then I go put on the Vince Morales tape, and he is slower, and his feet are inwards, and he moves so horribly. And he had such a close fight with a guy who just would not even throw punches. Um, you know, honestly, what I'm seeing here is exactly like you said. So I look at the cardio. I think they're probably about
Mhm.
even. They're pretty close. Um, Luis Smoka, he's a tall sip of water. The fact that he could ever make flyweight is insane to me because he's 5'9". He's huge, and he's filled out. He's not super skinny. Um, Vince Morales 5'7", and Vince Morales has actually had a very close comp fight to Benito. Oh man, what is his name? Benito. Jeez,
Oh, Lopez, right?
I want to
Yeah,
say
it's Benito
Benito
Lopez. Yep.
Lopez. Yeah, so Benito's about the same height as Luis Smolka is, and he just had trouble navigating that distance. The only people that really give Luis Smolka trouble are people that are in your face. Casey Kenny, who's not going to die, who's going to run forward and just is so
And
strong.
athletes
So
give
if
him trouble. He can't handle that strong, powerful fighter, and that's not Morales.
No, he's too tricky. He's too technical. So on a technical level, I think Smolka's striking is much more educated. Looking at their camps, you know, maybe you have to watch what you say a little bit, but just me looking at Syndicate, they are, or is he at Extreme?
I'm not sure. They list him out of Vegas. Who's his head coach? Does it say? Oh, I think it's um, Tony Fricklin, right? Who I think they list him with, and I think that would be.
Let
I
me
think that's
see.
Fricklin. I think he's at Syndicate.
Yeah, I thought he was at I thought he's at Syndicate. So Syndicate to me has some of the worst fight IQ in the game. I mean, you look at some of the people that have fought the Korean girl. I could not believe her fight IQ for how hard she hits and how clean her striking sometimes is. they just develop the worst game plans ever. And then I look on the flip side, Luis Smolka at Team Oyama. We know Oyama well. I think they always craft good game plans. I think he's a great coach, and I think it's a really underrated camp. So striking, I'm going Smolka. Cardio, let's call it a wash. Camp, Smolka. His jiu-jitsu and his IQ is very clean. He is crafty as it comes, but he doesn't lay on his back and think his jiu-jitsu is better than it is. He's always up on his feet. He's always climbing to the top and using it effectively.
And as a fighter, he is in your face fighting, and he will force you to fight him. And I like that. And for that, yeah, I think I really like it. Honestly, we always talk about prop bets, but if you're going to throw a prop bet, I don't think this is a bad one to say Smolka gets a finish on this. I think, I don't know if I would bet that. I think I would definitely bet it straight up, and I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love Smolka. Now, I don't want to say I love him. I like
Smolka a lot here. It's hard to love Smolka because he's had some inconsistencies, and he's just not a physical specimen, so it's hard to say that you love him. But no, I really like him here. Yeah, that's all we got with that one. Let's move on because we have a lot of fights, and we're going to talk a lot on these. We got Mickey Gall and Alex Morono, and this is kind of you guys are going to hear this a lot. We're watching film on somebody, and we really liked them, and then we're watching film on the other person, and we really like that person, or the opposite. We're watching film on Luis Smolka, and you go, how does he ever win, blah, 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 and then you watch Morales, and you're like, how does he ever win? And it's kind of the same. Mickey Gall and Alex Morono is that fight for me. I'm watching Mickey Gall, and Mickey Gall is, he's tall. His stand-up looks infinitely better. You watch him with Mike Perry. Good, long, sharp 1-2s right down the middle. Good, long, right kick right down the middle. Pulls it back. His technical striking is pretty good these days. He's not bad. He's a pretty good grappler. And he just makes... So, hold on. So, we're getting the pros there. Morono, I don't really... He's tough. He's a brawler. He comes from Fortis. He's going to be a grinder. He's got a decent overhand right. He likes to throw that check hook a lot. That's kind of the two of them in a nutshell. But Mickey Gall, man, watching him, he has some of the worst fight IQ I've seen in a long time. And I think his fight IQ, his bad fight IQ, I think that goes in tandem with his bad cardio. And you see him looking really good. And that dude is tired 2 minutes into the fight, taking deep breaths. You watch him with Mike Perry, and he is just gasping for air off of the first exchange. And then he's pulling guard. He's pulling guillotines. Give that man a reason to jump to his back and lay there, and he will. And then he'll stay on his back and fight submissions for a while before he tries to do anything. Between his cardio and his bad fight IQ, I really find it hard for him to win. But then you're looking at Morono, and he's got this really wide Muay Thai stance. His hands are so wide that Mickey Gall 1-2 right down the middle, you're going, man, he's going to land that. He overreacts to everything. You feint, and he will bite on every single feint that there is. And then he'll also, he kind of, with that long stance of Mickey Gall coming forward, he settles on his back foot. He's kind of off balance. He's not there. This almost pains me to say this, but all that said, I think Mickey Gall is probably better everywhere. And I think Morono might end up getting the win here because I think Mickey Gall's cardio, the guy's a 170-pounder, and he has the cardio of a 800-pound, my 600, 800-pound life on emphysema. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so this one's really interesting, guys. This is what I think. I watched Alex Morono a long time. Every time Alex Morono fights, there are endless people just flying this Alex Morono flag. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. And I never could understand why. I never could understand why. So here's what I think of Alex Morono. I think his striking is not good. I just don't think it's good. It's not intellectual. His chin's up. His hands are down. He's getting hit constantly. Where I think Alex Morono excels, I do think he has very good jiu-jitsu, and his fight IQ is awesome. He makes the right decisions and he wins the small moments when he needs to. So like you're saying, this is a complete inverse fight. Mickey Gall's got all the technical aspects, the athleticism. Alex Morono was a fat guy who got skinny to fight. Mickey Gall is chiseled out of stone. He's 6'2". He's huge. He's athletic. He's technical. His striking actually looks good. The worst fight IQ, and he's got horrible cardio. But here's what I think. I called Mickey Gall in the Jordan Williams fight. I was on a hill dying by myself calling Mickey Gall. Everyone was Jordan Williams, Jordan Williams. I think Mickey Gall is starting to mature. I think he's starting to come into his own. He's understanding the problems, and I think he's starting to develop with his own game and find himself. You want the truth? I wouldn't touch this fight. I think there's way too many variables. You got a bad fight IQ, but great athleticism versus the opposite. My gut is telling me probably Mickey Gall, but truth be told, I wouldn't touch this one.
I'm with you on that. I won't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. I think I'm as close to you as they get. I think Morono will probably eke it out. But yeah, I mean, it's a coin toss. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Mickey Gall is maturing. I think he's 7-3. Is that his? I mean, he does not have a lot of fights.
Yeah,
that is 10 professional fights. That is not enough time for adrenaline to wear off. His cardio might actually be fine, and it could just be adrenaline. And a lot of people don't understand that. You see these guys who are marathoners can go forever, and then the second they get into a fight, their adrenaline hits and they're gone. So yeah, I don't like not that I dislike Morono at all. As a human, I don't know him. He could be a great guy. I am not on the Morono bandwagon. I do think he makes good
Never understood.
Yeah, I do think he makes good decisions. In the grappling exchanges, he will fight to come up on top. He will fight to be on top. You take him down, he will try to get up. He wasn't able to get up on Pettis for a while, but he was trying and trying. Then he couldn't get up, so then he switched to jiu-jitsu because that's all he could do. His IQ is better, but man, that stance of his wrestling, I don't really know what is impressive about him. I mean, again, even his jiu-jitsu, I'm not wowed by. I don't really see it.
Which is insane that I hear so much fanfare for him every time. Like every time he fights, it's like nobody else matters on the card. It's just Alex Morono. And I cannot believe it. First comment everybody makes to me, Alex Morono's fighting this
guy.
I cannot believe it. He's fine. He's good.
He's probably a great guy. Probably super nice.
Am I wrong on this? Does he remind me of like a Joe Lozon?
Oh, like physically, does he look like Joe?
Kind of, but does his style match Joe? I haven't watched Joe in a long time.
I think Joe is so much cleaner than him everywhere.
I do too. I think he's a poor man's Joe Lozon.
But Lozon, nah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if we watch him side by side.
I could be totally wrong.
I like Lozon. I like his style. I thought he was, I thought he was a really good fighter. I like him.
He's just the thinker.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Azamat Murzakanov versus, and this is a last-minute replacement, Jared Vanderey. Who is he supposed to fight? Philip Lins? Yes. All right. So, what do you say here? Vanderey is a huge heavyweight. I mean, but I don't mean like seismic, chiseled out of stone. I mean just like a massive, like Shrek. He's like Shrek. He's a giant fighting Shrek. And he kind of moves like Shrek. He's slow, he's big, he's lumbering. I mean, I think he's probably cutting weight to make 265, don't you think? He's big.
He's a big boy.
But he's slower than shit. I mean, he's like plate tectonics will shift. We'll have a new continent before that guy lands a punch. I mean, it's just the guy is really slow. But what's funny though is for as big and slow, and we kind of expect to say sloppy because a lot of heavyweights are sloppy. He's actually pretty technical in his movements. His striking is decent. He throws well. He moves well. He's just slow. He's just a big, slow guy. On the other side of that, we have Azamat, who is the opposite of slow. That dude, not only is he fast with his hands, he closes distance fast. He's light on his feet. He is the real deal. I really like him. I wish Vanderey was a little bit smaller just because, I mean, Azamat, like 3 days ago, was expecting to cut to 205. So he's probably going to be 215, 220, 225 come fight time. And Vanderlei is going to be too big. I mean, he's going to be 270, 275. I don't even know what he's going to be. But man, even with all of the weight class, even with all of that said, I think Azamat wins this. I think his speed, his power is going to be too much. Vanderlei's not going to finish him early, and he's going to gas out. And I mean, unless he slips on a banana peel, I don't even know why. I mean, I love the fight in terms of betting, but man, I don't think it's going to be much of a contest.
Yeah, this one feels like a gift from the gods. To have a minus 250 or whatever your book's going to list, these lines I feel like are going to run just a little bit. Somebody said to me that, okay, this is his first fight at heavyweight. Vanderlei's too big. He's all this stuff. Listen, I had a buddy when I was in high school, and I don't really remember the higher weight classes. What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking LaCroix.
Let's go. Good old sponsor. So I had a buddy when I was in high school, and I don't remember the bigger weight classes, but he might have been 200 pounds. And for a couple months, something happened with the weight certification or whatever. He wasn't allowed to cut. So he had to wrestle 220, and he only weighed 205. He beat every single person, not even close, and placed in states easy at 220 pounds when he weighed 205. Why? Because the 220 pounders were fat, sloppy, slow, and every time they would link up with him, he would outspeed them. He was just as strong as they were. Basically, what they were was 205 pounders with a spare tire of fat around their waist. And that's what I'm seeing here. Azamat, his striking is insane. It's so beautiful. It's calm. It's composed. He's fought open weight before. He's fought big boys. His wrestling is clean when he needs it, and he doesn't gas himself out. If you guys listen to the podcast, you heard me stand up for Vanderlei in his last fight, but that's because I didn't like Romanov. There was holes in Romanov's game. I don't think there's the same holes in this game. I think that Vanderlei is a big target for Azamat to target practice, and I think he's going to put him away pretty easily here. I think this is a gift.
I think you're right. If you look at most heavyweights, the very successful heavyweights, this is not all of them, so don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of outliers. Brock Lesnar, is an outlier. Generally, when you look at heavyweights throughout the history of heavyweights, whether it's boxing or MMA, they're not the biggest guys. They're the 230 to 245 Cain Velasquez's, Randy Couture's, Stipe's. Those are the guys. Bigger doesn't always mean better, and I think Azamat is just gonna. I think he's gonna be running around Chandrai, and I think it's gonna. If it even gets 3-4 minutes in before that big strike happens, I think Vanderlei, especially taking this fight short notice, I think it's going to be a hard go for him.
And doesn't go the distance. There you go. That'll be easy because if Vanderlei ends up on his back, he's going to get finished by Azamat. God forbid he slips on a banana peel, Vanderlei is going to finish with a knockout or Azamat a knockout. I think that's a great one, and you guys know me. I don't love prop bets, but not to go the distance on this one sounds like safe.
Yeah, do you know the odds on that?
He moves like a it's minus 250. Oh, on the
on the prop.
Bet?
Yeah, no. We'll throw some numbers down in the show notes at some point, just so you guys have some idea. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say there. Now this next fight, we have Puelles and Grutzmacher. Is it Claudio Puelles? His first name? Claudio Puelles.
Claudio.
Chris Grutzmacher, who I know. I've known Grit since, man, he was probably 21, 22 years old, probably 10, 12 plus years. Why don't you lead with this one? Because I know you're big on Puelles. I think both of us really like Puelles over Levitt.
No, that's not true. You switched last
minute.
Oh,
really? Because I liked Puelles, and I remember winning money on him over Levitt.
No. So here's the story, guys, just so you guys know. So this was my first experience cornering. I cornered Camuela Kirk in his debut fight against Maki.
Wait, was this on that card?
So the way that it works, this was on that card. So what we had, guys, what you do is you show up at the hotel, you take your COVID test, and then you sit in an isolated room for 7 days with nothing to do. You do nothing. That's all right. So all I did was watch film. This was madness. And I came to Santino and I said, okay, if you're so good at watching film, I want you to watch these two guys, and you tell me who you think is going to win. I said, I have my theory, but I want you to watch it. And I didn't say anything. We just let everybody watch the film. Everybody watched the film. So this was a whole family affair. And I had chose Puelas. And here's why I chose Puelas. Okay, so Puelas, he had a fight with this guy, Felipe Silva, right? And when I first started fighting, my biggest fear was these guys that you can't take down. They're these big Brazilian strikers, and they're horrifying. Okay, well, Puelas is my age. So he was at the same stage, and he was a skinny guy. He was in the UFC getting demolished on his feet, not even a close fight. He weathered the storm, came back with a third round knee bar. It was insane. Just the guts on that guy to not be scared, to be getting washed the entire fight and come out and win, right? So you guys are watching film and you go, guys, you go, Levitt's going to win this. Not even close. It's not even going to be a close fight. Puelas is horrible. So then we're warming up with Camuela. He's, getting all his mitt work in. And Puelas is about to walk out. And they go, out of Sanford MMA. And you go, oh, Puelas is going to win this fight.
No, we watched tape on
It might have been a little bit
because
before
we watched
that.
tape on Levitt beforehand. So I watched Puelas and I was like, dude, this guy's getting killed. But then I watched Levitt afterwards. I was like, oh, I stand corrected. That was before watching tape on him. There's no way.
You picked Levitt, but you switched before the event. You went, okay, he's at that was your divider was Sanford. You were like, okay, he's at Sanford. Let's go Puelas. I remember that distinctly. So you did make the right pick, just a little late for my my pocketbook.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the archives on that one. But we've got Puelas, we've got Gritzmacher in front of us right now. Go.
Yeah, let's make it really simple, guys. So we have a huge age matchup here. So it's 25 versus 35. Okay, so 10 years discrepancy. We always call that dividing line, the 35-year-old dividing line. If you watch Gritz's last fight, he didn't even pretend to stop a takedown. Now, I think we were doing this show back then. I think we called a Gritz upset. And if we didn't, we privately called a Gritz upset, which was awesome. So he doesn't even pretend to stop takedowns anymore. He just falls down every single time. His chin is very weak, very weak. I mean, almost every punch rocks him in a fight. So Puelas is a mainstay at Sanford. He's getting better every day. He's in his athletic prime. And truth be told, his takedowns are good and his jiu-jitsu is even better. So really how I see this fight going is Puelas takes him down. He controls him. He submits him or he TKOs him. And it could be first round, second round. I think this is a pretty clear path to victory here.
I'm not so certain. I like Puelas' technical abilities. I like his wrestling. I like his striking. I don't know if Puelas really likes a fight. And he's going to get that in Grits. And I don't know if he has the power to put him out on the feet, whereas Grits is just in your face. He hand fights well. He's nonstop. I think Grits is going to get the upset. And I don't say that because I know him. I mean, we're not close. I don't see him. Like, we don't hang out. Like, he lives. Actually, my only worry about this fight, actually, with Grits isn't even his age. He's now in North Carolina, like, training in the woods by himself.
Some karate
Yeah,
dojo.
I mean, that's my real issue with this, with Grits, is training partners, timing, sparring, like, who's he working with? I think. I mean, we saw it with the fight where Puelas ended up pulling the knee bar out, where he was just getting beat up. And who was that against?
Felipe Silva.
Yes, and even with the Levitt fight, I mean, Levitt was able to drag him down a few times. He was able to reverse. He was able to do really well against Levitt in a lot of scenarios, but I think a lot of that was Levitt's cardio and gassing and pulling guard and his poor fight IQ. Levitt thought that he was just going to go in there and smash this dude, and he wasn't able to after 3 minutes and was just gasping for air and going. I think that was more a knock on Levitt than it was on Puelas. And I don't know that I think Puelas is going to let his technique get in the way of a good fist fight. And Grits, for as many flaws as he has good cardio. He's tough. He's in your face. He's getting rocked. He got rocked by Rafa Garcia, who swings the kitchen sink at you, and he recovered well off of that. He also, I mean, Garcia's a pretty good wrestler. He's got a really good blast double, and Grits would get up every time. Um, I think Grits gets the upset out of just nothing more than toughness. I think Puelas is very good. I think he's young, and I just don't think he's matured yet to fight those tough people who don't care how good they are. They're just going to be in your face and fight you for 15 minutes. And I think I think this is going to change who we see the next time Puelas comes out.
This is going to be one of my favorite spots of the whole week, to be honest. Puelas is a dog here, which to me is insane. The reason I wanted to bring up the Felipe Silva fight for Puelas, when I look at Grits' striking, and we've trained with Grits a long time, we know Grits really, really well. I did jiu-jitsu with Grits, and I'm a 125-pounder, so I'll just say that and let that be that. His striking is not one-punch knockouts. It never has been, never will be. He is pressure. And when Puelas fought Silva, Silva is a one-punch knockout guy that also has pressure. And that is the scariest thing. It almost was like Kamaru Usman versus Colby in the first 2 rounds, where Colby looked terrified to be in there as Usman walked him down and hit him with hammers. So my thinking and my decision-making was that was a few years ago when he was barely a 20-year-old, right? He was barely out of his teenage years. He stood in the storm with a guy that hits 5 times as hard as Grits hits, who's younger than Grits, better takedown defense than Grits. Like every aspect was better than Grits, and he survived and found a way to win. I think the path to victory is so much more clear here than Silva.
All right, we disagree. I'm curious to see this one play out. I'm not. It wouldn't strike me to see that Puelas just outclasses him. I just don't think he's ready yet. I think he's just not physically. I think the pressure of Grits is going to freak him out a little bit.
We'll see. I'm very excited for this one, guys. So you're going to have to make your call, your decision, which path to go down. But I love Puelas.
Okay, next up we got William Knight and Alonzo Menafield. What do you got here?
Yeah, we'll keep this one short and sweet. I don't think William Knight, I think he's the lowest tier UFC fighter or the best regional fighter you're ever going to see. I don't know that he's necessarily UFC caliber. His striking is messy at best. His chin is up in the air 24/7. Alonzo Menafield, his last fight, he actually looked great. He learned how to compose himself. They have same body types, so cardio is an issue on both sides. I think Menafield has better power. He's so much bigger. And I think he does more things correctly, and he's got a better camp. So Menafield is the easy choice for me here.
This is another one. I don't know which way I want to go on this one. Knight is a slight dog. Menafield is a slight favorite. If you look at them, I mean, so first of all, yeah, Alonzo Menafield, his gas tank was better his last fight. And who was his last fight against?
Ed Herman.
Who looked so
It's tough.
Man, Ed is tough, but that dude is stiffer than the Tin Man. He was so stiff, was not cutting off the cage at all. I mean, he looked drunk out there. I mean, we're gauging his gas tank on a 50-year-old Ed Herman. And even that was...
I say that, though, not based on who he was fighting, but his own composure and how he performed in the fight. Even when he had him rocked, he wasn't going crazy. He wasn't burning his gas. He just stayed composed to himself is what I
he was. He was definitely better. He wasn't swinging for the fences. You know, on the other side of that, so, I mean, we've got, the thing with Menafield is he is athletic. He's I think he played college football. Am I right on that? I think he played college football.
I can't back up that claim.
Yeah, I think he did. You know, and he's calm. He really knows, you know what I mean? He's getting calmer. He was a little wild in his first couple exchanges, but he's getting better. The thing with Knight, though, is, yeah, they are built similar. Knight, with his fight against Kamer, Alexa Kamer, that was honestly, I think Alexa Kamer is a better version than Alonzo Menafield. And Alexa was swinging at him hard, and Knight never really got hit with anything. His head movement, he was moving. Yeah, his chin is up in the air, and he's rocking back, but he avoided those punches really well, got into really intense grappling exchanges with Alexa. And honestly, his cardio was fine, and he could have done another 2 rounds at the end of that. At no point did he gas. He got the takedown numerous times. Um, and originally watching Alonzo Menefield, I was thinking, oh, Alonzo wins this. He's longer. He throws those punches. Chin is in the air. And then again, I'm watching the Kamer fight, and I'm going, man, Knight's not bad. He did even with the Fabio Charant fight. He was throwing that. He likes to kick. He likes to kick. He's definitely more of a kicker than he is a puncher. And then he hit that check hook that just put Charant down. But the biggest thing with that is he was calm. He was composed. And I don't think he got punched once in the face anyway, even with his kind of chin up high movement.
I thought he got rocked a couple times in that fight.
No, I mean, I don't recall that. I thought he got hit to the body a few times, and I think that was it. At no point, honestly, I don't think anybody really landed much of anything before that check hook put Charant down. Menifield's off balance when he throws. He's throwing these big 1-2s. They're not. It's not the sloppiest I've ever seen. It's not like he's throwing haymakers, but he is off balance. Which isn't the end of the world in round 1 where his cardio is there. But, round 2, round 3 comes along. He's a little bit off balance. Does he start taking these kicks and punches off the counter from Knight? The cardio definitely goes to Knight. I mean, yeah, Knight got out cardioed a little bit by the Korean Jun Un. Is it Jun Un? I forget.
And that was an interesting one I wanted to ask you about because I forgot that fight was there in between all the madness. So the Alexa Kamer fight is actually a really impressive win.
Yeah.
I think Alexa's solid, but I don't think Alexa's wrestling is there. Menefield is a good wrestler, is a really good wrestler. And we see what happened to Will Knight when somebody offensively wrestled him in the Da-Un Jung fight. So here's again my dividing line. I see Alonzo Menefield at Fortis, training with the best guys at Fortis. And he's got Saif Saud. And then you see Will Knight, who's again at a small gym, and he's got all these other flaws. I think that there's a very clear path to victory here for Alonzo Menefield. I think he can win on the feet, but I also think if times get tough, he can offensively wrestle too. And that's going to be that dividing line. Like, hey, let's offensively wrestle. Let's put him on his back because when he's having to defend, it's a lot different.
No, see, I don't think that Menefield could put Knight on his back. I don't think he's a good enough wrestler. I don't think he's a bad wrestler by any means, but I don't think he'd be able to get him there if keep him there. And Knight is, honestly, I think Knight's biggest flaw, besides his chin being in the air, is he will let people push him against the fence and just hang out there for a while before he does anything. We saw it with Alexa Kamer. He lets him just sit on the fence and sit on the fence. I guess my big question for this fight is, does William Knight wrestle Alonzo Menefield early? He's probably not going to take him down. His wrestling's not great, but he did get quite a few 3, 4, 5 trips on Kamer, hip tosses, trips, and stuff like that. I don't think he gets that on Menefield, but does he tire him out? That is the key right there is, does William Knight's wrestling tire Alonzo Menefield out in that first round? And I don't know. I don't think I want to touch this fight. I think this is this honestly is probably the hardest fight for me to call on the card because I think Knight is better than people give him credit for. I think, yeah, he's big, he's strong, he's explosive. He's built like a freaking house, but I don't think his cardio is not bad, especially for a big guy with all that muscle. And he keeps going and going. And his fight IQ is not bad either. I think his fight IQ is better than Alonzo Menefield's. I think his cardio is better than Alonzo Menefield. I don't know if he has a pure path to win, but I don't think he gets blown out of the water. I think Knight dodges punches well and does a really good job of not getting hit. And Menefield is just kind of swinging and hoping he hits somebody. I think it probably goes over a round. I don't think it gets finished in a round. And then really it just comes down to cardio, like who's winning this. I would say I would take the over a round. Other than that, I mean, grab a coin, pick heads or tails, flip it, and there's your winner right there. But I'm not sold on Menefield.
You guys just saw me on air right now just go from Menefield easy to like, hey, okay, maybe I should not touch this one or only have fun with
I would
this one.
say have fun with it if you want, or just don't touch it, because I think everybody's thinking Menifield's just a big easy pushover, or, I mean, easy victory for him. I just am not so certain. So for that reason, I'm out.
I'm out.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. What do we got next?
Let me see. We've got, I think we might have sort of Mallory Martin and Cheyenne Vismas. Not Cheyenne Buys, Cheyenne Vismas. Do you want to explain that to people? Who Cheyenne Buys versus Cheyenne Vismas is?
Yeah, so it looks like Cheyenne Buys was married to JP Buys, and no explanation, but the name has been changed. So you guys can kind of do the math there.
Yeah, does a divorce affect you? And I would assume if it's a divorce you wanted because it was a toxic relationship for some reason, I think it affects you very positively. It's a very good thing. Is it a negative thing? Did JP Buys divorce her? What is going on? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We don't know. And I don't even know how you play that into a fight. Like,
now, do you want to spend a lot of time on this one?
no. And
okay, so,
yeah, give me the skinny.
Oh, okay. I just want to say my piece. So this was another one that people were like, "Oh, Cheyenne by a mile, Cheyenne by a mile." I've picked Cheyenne in almost every fight. Her last fight, I called that one, I made thousands of dollars on her last fight. That was a great one for me. And everyone's like, Mallory Martin's horrible. I had never seen Mallory Martin fight until yesterday. I don't think Mallory Martin's as bad as people think that she is. And I don't think Cheyenne, I think she's good. I don't think she's as good as people think she is. So I think the lines, I actually don't know what the lines are.
Cheyenne was a negative 200 last time I saw.
Yeah, and I think those lines are way inflated for where they should be. I think these girls fight so similarly. This is a pick'em fight to me. In my heart, this is a pick'em fight. They both have good camps. They're both very similar fighters. And then you add this divorce thing in, whether it's positive or negative. I think there's too many variables here. I don't like to touch this one.
Yeah, I don't know if I would touch it, but I think, it's funny. I'm watching Mallory Martin, and I watched her last 3 UFC fights. She might only have 3. I forget exactly. Invicta might have been before that. But so, I'm watching her, and she moves well. She really is standing up. She is calm. Her head is offline. She's moving left and right. She's doing all of the right things. But she doesn't really pull the trigger. She's not aggressive. She just waits. And then we saw with the Hannah Cyphers fight, she got hit by a flea and fell over. She was hurt. That really rocked her. And that was like a jab. It was not a powerful shot. And then she got rocked again, ended up getting the takedown, got the submission. But Hannah Cyphers is tiny, does not generate a lot of power. I'm not overly impressed with Hannah Cyphers. Now, when she actually fought Verna Jandaroba, and then I forget her last opponent, who pulled guard. Yeah,
Polyana. Tough fights.
Very tough fights. But I just thought that Mallory just didn't put up any fight with those two at all. The thing with her movement, it's funny, because I really like the way that she strikes in terms of her movement, her setups, her in and out.
Nice.
But then what she does, and this drives me nuts, it's a pet peeve as a coach, is when fighters cross their hands as they punch. It takes away all of the power that there is. And what I mean by that, I don't even know if I can even show if my hands will show up here.
Yeah, show us. I need to know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm too close. But what happens is, like, somebody's throwing a jab, okay? And then as they're pulling their jab in, that right hand goes out too fast, and their hands end up crossing about a foot away from their body. Yes, like that. And now right there, yes. But really what you want to do is you want to throw your jab or whatever it is, throw your jab, and now start no. You want to start to turn your body.
Oh, I just messed up. I got knocked out.
No, you didn't get knocked out, but you just hit a flea punch. So you want to throw your punches, and you want to start your second punch in the rotation of your second punch, but you want to pull that jab hand back before that right hand goes. It's like you can't extend both hands and have power in both of them. If you throw your left hand, your right hand needs to be loaded back. Yes. And now if you throw that right hand, you've got to have a big twisting movement. And she kind of paused with her punches right in front. Okay. And that really bothers me. It takes away power right there. And if you watch her fight, you'll see this. She's punching both, almost like both hands at the same time. So then she's not getting power there. And I don't think they call her a wrestler. I don't think she's a great wrestler. I'm not overly impressed with her wrestling. I'm not overly impressed with her jiu-jitsu. I think Cheyenne Buys and Mallory Martin are extremely similar in skill set. I think Cheyenne Buys is just a little bit more aggressive and a little tougher. And I think she wins on nothing more than that. I don't know if I like the fight. I do think Cheyenne Buys wins. Um, I really, really, really want to like Mallory Martin. I just haven't figured out what I can like about her yet.
I think we feel the same way on this one. I think we both think that Cheyenne's going to win. I think we both want Mallory to win.
I really want her to find her coming out party because I really like a lot of the stuff she does. And I just wish she was a little bit tougher, a little bit more calculated in a couple things. And I don't think she's far from it. I think, well, depending on how her chin holds up. Like I said, that Hannah Cyphers.
I wish she was worse. I wish she was the horrible person that everybody was telling me that she was, so that I could make
would be easy.
Money. I wish she was either worse or way better.
She really is. I like her. I think you're right. I think Cheyenne Vismus is not as great as people say. I think Mallory Martin probably is better than they say. But man, I really I don't want to touch this. Probably I don't even know. I don't even know if I wouldn't even touch a prop bet on this because Mallory.
This is Morono and Gall all over again. It
absolutely is. But that one you at least know is going over a round. I doubt that fight gets finished. It's probably a 3-rounder. This one could go 3 rounds, or if it gets finished early, I think Cheyenne Buys Vismus, I think, gets the win in round 1. And that could easily happen. This could be a round 1 or a 3-round fight. I wouldn't touch it. Don't touch this fight. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But that said, I like the next fight, and I like the next fight a lot. We've got Zhalgas Zhumagulov and Manel Kape. I like this fight a lot. And first of all, we got to go with, I'm pulling them up. Zhumagulov is Kazakhstanian, okay? Are you aware of Kazakhstanian wrestling?
I am. And I've seen many fights.
And what are your thoughts as a whole of Kazakhstanian wrestling?
It is okay.
See, exactly. People like these Russian wrestlers, these Georgian, Russian, Dagestani wrestlers. And although it's the correct region, it's the wrong border. And I think these Kazakhstani wrestlers, these Mongolian wrestlers, get a little bit too much credit for their wrestling than they deserve, especially in the cage. I don't know that it translates as well in the cage. I mean, Zhumagulov, he's a decent wrestler. He's not a great wrestler. He's a decent wrestler. He's not a great cage wrestler. And he is tough. My biggest knock on Zhumagulov is I don't think he knows what he wants to do in there. He spends too much time striking, which he's not great at. He's got a good overhand. He's fast. Swing some punches. And then he spends too much time striking, losing that striking battle. And then when he wants to wrestle, the timing's not right, the shot's not right, the distance isn't right because he wasn't winning the striking battle. So now he's at somebody else's range and rhythm, and he can't find his shot. And Manel Kape, his footwork and movement, I love. I love his footwork. I love his movement. He has a really good jab. He's very athletic and fast and explosive, but he doesn't go balls out and waste it. He uses his speed and athleticism in increments. He uses it to scramble and to turn himself away from the cage, and then he settles down and relaxes. I really like his scrambling. He's got a good fight IQ. He knows where he's good at. He knows where he's not good at. He's a good scrambler. And when people try and initiate the wrestling, he does a really good job of avoiding it. But when they're actually making contact with him and actually wrestling, he goes down kind of easily. But that said, I really like this fight. I really like Manel Kape here. Who do you have winning this?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Um, I think this is another one where Manel gets way too much love and Zalgas gets not enough love. Now, Zalgas's UFC career has not been good by any means. He's lost two, and he won one against the worst UFC fighter in the history of the UFC, Jerome Rivera. Um, and it's my weight class. I can say that I'll fight Jerome any day. Um, now, I think Manel is good. Just like everything you said, his striking is clean. Um, he's fast. His footwork is amazing. He picks his shots really, really well. Now, let me ask you: did you watch the Zalgas versus Ali
No,
Bagotinov
I
fight?
didn't. And that actually, I you want to know why I didn't? And I was actually about to. I was about to watch it, and I didn't. And I didn't watch it because it was that ACB or was that Brave? I forget. Um,
Yeah, probably Brave. I think that's where
just
he
in my
signed.
head, I thought these guys are going to be so juiced up, and then Ali is already older. He's not what he used to be. He got kicked out for steroids. He steroided it up. Like, does it really matter watching that fight? And that's why I didn't, because I didn't want to be swayed on watching that with the option of steroids and not testing and everybody juicing up. And I thought, I don't even want to have that into my brain because I saw that
That's why you should have watched it because Ali Bagotinov is still on the juice. He's still on the gas. He's going crazy with it. It's just every day's a party for him now. And if you would have watched that fight, it would have refuted everything that you just said about Zalgas. Now, I think Zalgas' striking is horrific. I mean, it's so predictable. He'll never even touch Manel on the feet. It will not be close. If Manel can stop a takedown, I think this is a blowout. It's not even a close fight. Now, that being said, Zalgas in the Ali Bagotinov fight, which is super impressive. And if you want to look earlier in his career, he beat Tagir Ulanbekov as well. Those are two great, great wins. Because Tagir can wrestle. He is just mean. He's mean and he's nasty. You know, you used to talk a lot of times, like when I would try to be too pretty with jujitsu, you say, just put your hands in their face, just grind their face, put your head into them. You just got to be mean and nasty. It was insane to see Zalgas be mean and nasty to Ali Bagotinov, who is known for being mean and nasty to everybody else. It was nothing short of impressive to me. Now, it was a very close fight. I think it could have gone either way. That being said, I think Ali's at a very, very high level. So for me, watching the Manel fight and the Zalgas fight, this is another one that I want nothing to do with because I see this fight going one of two ways. Manel runs around and Zalgas can never touch, never catch him, and he gets picked apart the entire time. Or Zalgas comes out and he blast doubles him into the cage like he did to Ali, and he beats him within an inch of his life, and that's a wrap. I, I don't know which way it's going to go. I need more film on Zalgas, I
yeah, I
think.
could see that. I like Manel Cape here. If you just watching his footwork, watching him go with Pantoja, who is really,
Is
really
awesome.
good. He's so well rounded. He's very good. His fight IQ is good. Pantoja is tough. Um, and Manel, I thought, did great with him. I mean, just moved well. But again, it's honestly, it's his footwork. It's his footwork and ability to stay off of the cage. And he understands there is a sense of urgency to avoid that cage. And his wrestling is not great once hands are on him, but his ability to avoid it, he's got a long reach. Zalgov is, it's funny, he's fast in his hands, but he's kind of slow with his feet, if that makes sense, in terms of like plotting and going forward and moving. Like he's not light on his feet and he doesn't close distance well, but his hands are fast. And I don't think I don't think he's going to be able to touch Manel Cape much.
You know, it's part of what I like about Zalgas is that he's dumb. That's kind of like my favorite part about Zalgas is that he's just dumb. He has no sense of fight IQ. He has no sense of anything. He just goes, I smash. That's what he tries to do every single time. And so when you're comparing Pantoja to Zalgas, Pantoja is so crisp. You know, it's a lot of times like when you spar with somebody who's really good, you can do well. You can do well because you get the rhythm, you get the timing. And then you spar against somebody who's never trained a day in their life, and all of a sudden you're getting tagged up and you have no clue what they're going to do. I think Zalgas' best attribute in this fight is that he's so dumb. He's got a good chin. He's just going to run forward and just, it's like a linebacker. It's not going to be like a smooth, technical, takedown. It's I'm a linebacker. I'm going to put you on the cage and I will just chase after you if I can. So for that reason, I got to stay away from this one.
Now,
as much as I want,
do we know where he trains at these days, Cop? Is he still okay?
ATT.
He is at ATT.
Oh, AKA?
No. Oh, I guess on one of the gosh, was it him that
Cormier was talking about him at AKA.
That how he was out there, AKA Thailand for a while. Then he went to AKA San Jose. I'm not sure if he's still there, but he's getting good training one way or the other. Whether it is actually AK. Honestly, I don't even know who's at AKA anymore. You got
the Russians.
Yeah, all the Russians.
Godzi.
But you've
Usman.
got gosh, who's the coach? Not Crazy Bob. Bob is there. Gosh, who's Khabib's coach? He's out over there in Russia, though. I don't even know the striking coach. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I'm looking him up right now. He was this phenomenal striker back in the day. Javier Mendes. So I think Javier Mendes, who's the main striking coach for most of those guys, I don't know how much time he spends there anymore. You don't hear much about AKA, Bob Cook, those guys. I don't know what's really going on there. And then ATT is a hit and a miss for me. There's so many people down there that I think some of them are getting very good camps, and other people are just showing up and training like everybody else. Honestly, I think Sanford MMA is like that now. I think there's a couple people who are really getting that work in, and then I think there's a lot of other just good people in the room.
I think Sanford's worse than ATT, to be honest. I think ATT, at the very least, Zalgas day in and day out is getting work with that kid who's the champion in 1FC. What is his name? Adriano something. He's really good. He's getting work with Pantoja every day, and Pantoja is phenomenal. I mean, we've seen him in the room. He's amazing. He's getting work with the top flyweights in the world. At AKA, I think it's a lot of lightweights. It's a lot of middleweights. It's a lot of wrestlers. So he might get good work, but as far as I know, Manel Kopp's kind of a drifter. He's kind of
be interesting to see how that fight turns out. I think Kopp wins it, but that's another weird one. Who's up next? What do we have next?
We got Jake Matthews versus Jeremiah Wells.
So we lost money on Wells. Do you remember that? We lost money.
Bad. That was at the
Yeah, that was. I don't even know if we were doing the podcast yet or if we just bet money or what. But man, we got smashed on Jeremiah Wells.
This is funny, guys. So this is a little story, kind of how I got started. So I think this. Let me check the date on this one. So Jeremiah Wells was called in short notice. I'm pretty sure this was
it was like
June. Yep,
a couple days notice, a week notice tops.
So I had been talking to Santino a few days before that, and I said, you know what, Coach? I think that I can do this. I said, I think if I study plays and I study fights, I think I can do this. And the entire time you had always said, no, that's stupid. You're going to lose all your money. And June,
I told you to do it right. Do it calculated, get some sheets.
Yeah. You told me, hey, if you want to do this, you really can do this. And I was like, boom, okay, then let's do it then. And the very first fight after you told me that and after I got serious was Jeremiah Wells versus Warley Alves. And you and I sat down and we watched
everything.
What, 30, 45 minutes
on both of them, on Alves and on
say?
Jeremiah Wells. And we're like, there is no way in hell Jeremiah Wells wins this fight. He's just a brawler. He has fought nobody decent. I mean, you look at his record, they're just, I mean, tomato cans out of CFFC. And I don't mean that offensively. They're just guys without records, 2-2, 3-2. I mean, just not. And then you have Warley Alves, who's amazing everywhere. And
he legitimately is very good.
I mean, he beat him in the second round. He knocked him out in the second round. But even in the first round, he was doing whatever he wanted. I mean, it was just brutalizing him. It was just every which way he wanted that fight to go, that fight was going. And we were like, what the hell just happened? And I remember, I think you lost a lot of money on that. I think that was like, whoa, what the hell did I do?
It was brutal.
And, man, and now looking at Jeremiah Wells, now we know that he trains with Sean Brady. He trains with Pat Sabatini. He trains with those guys. Um, their cage wrestling, their physicality. Those guys are tough. Watching the Warley Alves fight back, you hear Paul Felder in his corner, who he was his training partner for a long time. Was like this, and he was actually saying Wells in that Warley fight was actually calm, not as crazy and wild as he usually is. And like, what? Um, man, I was not a believer beforehand, but holy shit, am I now? And I'm looking at,
Wow.
I'm looking at Jake Matthews, um, who is a 55er for a long time, going up in weight. Um, I don't think he has a lot of KO power. I'm not overly impressed with his wrestling. Um, I honestly, I have no idea how Jake Matthews wins this.
Now does now does this next piece of information change
Everything could
anything at
change
all?
everything.
Jeremiah Wells, 35.
So if he was fighting,
Jake Matthews, 27.
if Matthews was a power puncher, absolutely. But he's almost a little bit too calculated. He's a little bit too cautious. Even though he's only 27, let's look at, I'm going to count his,
He's been in the UFC
forever, since 2014. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. He's got 15 UFC fights, okay? And if you look, man, he's got wins over Jingling Lee. He's got wins over Johnny Case, which is a very solid win. Wagner Roca. Seriously, he's got a submission win over Wagner Roca. And I mean, that is unreal.
Emil Meek, Diego Sanchez.
Well, that fight was, oh my gosh. Diego was 1,000 years old and dying of leprosy at that point. And you see this a lot. You see this a lot with these guys. When they come in, they're dynamic, they're athletic, they're fighting to win fights in the first round and going out there for the kill. And the more and more they fight, the more calculated they get. They kind of realize these fights aren't going to go a decision, they're not going to be finished early, and they're going to go to a decision, so they don't swing everything. And I think with Jake Matthews, I think that hurts him. I think earlier in his career, he took more risks, swung for the fences, would do a little bit more. And lately, you see him kind of trying to touch people up and piece them apart and be technical. But I'm not really worried about his power. I don't really know. And you got Jeremiah Wells, who is a huge human, who's just gonna be in your face swinging.
What do you mean by huge human?
I mean, he's just a big physical 170 pounder. And I think Jake Matthews, I don't think he's a small 70 pounder by any means, but he's not a big 70 pounder. I think Wells,
because there is a 2-inch height difference, which I found.
Yeah, but there, I think, and when you say that, I think Matthews is taller. Correct? Am I crazy there? Yeah. But Wells is just wide as a house. He's got the power. He's also got a reach advantage. I mean, he has a 75-inch reach on a 5'9" frame. And especially knowing where he comes from and knowing that he's doing rounds with Sean Brady and Sabatini and these
who
just beat him. And no, they're different fighters. Sean Brady and Wells are they're not even, they train at the same gym, but in terms of their fighting style, it's night and day. But I just don't know that. I don't feel like Matthews can hurt Wells. And, just because of that, I think just physicality and swinging for the fences and going, I like Wells here. And I think Matthews is a more technical fighter probably everywhere, and I don't think that's going to matter.
Oh, that makes me nervous. I actually hope you win this one. As far as my pick, I got to go Jake Matthews, and I actually love everything you said. That Warley Alves loss will burn in my soul forever. There's like 5 guys that have burned me that it's just in my soul forever, right? Choi and I'm going to go Jake Matthews only because age tells me so. Age, experience, cardio. Those are the only reasons I'm picking Jake Matthews. He's clean enough for me. I think Sean Brady is a whirlwind all his own. And I can't forget the hours of film that I watched on Jeremiah Wells because of one fight, because of him catching somebody early and just being a shit brick house. Because that's Warley's game. He just brought that same game to Warley. So I'm going to go Jake Matthews to pick him apart, to find those spots, just to win age and cardio. And nothing, I do not feel confident about that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sold. I could see Matthews picking him apart a little bit, but I just, there's something underwhelming about Matthews to me in his last few fights. I feel like I said, we see this a lot with people once they've, like, they're comfortable in there. They just kind of do enough. Look at his, so he lost to Sean Brady. The Diego Sanchez fight was very unimpressive. Like, that was a bad old Diego. Decision. I mean, yeah, I don't know what it is. There's just something underwhelming about him to me. And
I get it. He was not impressive at all in that Sean Brady fight, and I can't tell you how many people thought that was going to be a Jake Matthews win or just a very close competitive fight, and it didn't even look remotely
well, that said,
close.
we've seen that Sean Brady is way better. Like, we now know that he is that good. In a 3-rounder. I think in a 5-rounder he's going to have some issues, and I don't think he's going to beat those guys in the top 10.
I don't either, unfortunately, and that's what sucks about him.
I know Chiesa was ranked in the top 10.
I wish I would have found him sooner.
I think Chiesa was ranked in the top 10 when he just fought him. I think that was the best matchup he could have gotten for him right there, but I don't think he's going to have too many more of those if he fights those guys in the top. We talked about this, the top 8, 9, 10 to 20. I think he's going to win a lot of those fights. I think going 8, 9, or 10, and then up to 1, I think he's going to have a hard time stylistically in some of those fights. But Brady is really good. I don't think, even that said, I think this is honestly, I don't think how underwhelming, how unimpressive Matthews was in that fight actually has any bearing on this fight because they're so different stylistically. It's not even the same, but
yeah.
I like Wells's fight. I like his fight IQ. As weird as it is, the way that he technically brawls. He's kind of a smart brawler, which is kind of weird to say.
And that is definitely a style.
It is a style. And like I said, all of the right things point to Jake Matthews, and I think Wells wins this fight.
All right, let's move along to the next one. We have Maki Patolo versus Dusko Todorovic.
So you go on this one, and the reason I'm telling this to you people out there is I missed watching film on this fight. I don't know why. I missed it. I went bottom to top, and then I skipped this fight and kept going. I don't know. I mean, I like Maki. I like to watch Maki Patolo fight. He's always exciting because he goes out there swinging and brawling, good body work. He's a Hawaiian. He's the typical Hawaiian fighter. Good boxer.
You mean extremely talented for 1 round?
Exactly.
The best looking fighter ever for 1 round?
Phenomenal boxing, great body work, tough as they come, fades hard the second that first round ends.
Yeah, so I'll go quickly on this one, guys. I didn't watch film for these fights on this card, but I have done so much film work on both of these guys over my time. Let me preface with this. I think Dusko is not good. He's got some things you like, and he's got some things you don't like. I think he fights like a complete tard, like just the chin up in the air with every single thing. He will never even just raise his hands up to block his head. Every single thing is leaning back, and it's trying to slip punches, but backwards. And I think that's the most horrible defense of all time. He's not Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather slips and punches off the punches. I do not think Dusko is this world beater that people think he is. That being said, I think that he beats Maki here. And the reason being, I think Maki is so much more technical. We just went over that. He is so much more technical. His striking is powerful. It's clean. It's beautiful. He can wrestle, we figured out in his last fight. And we also found out in his last fight, he can lose to the worst IQ fighter in the entire UFC in Julian Marquez. in the last 10 seconds. I mean, what a ridiculous way to lose after you're winning the entire fight. So I don't think Dusko is going to win a ton of fights in the UFC just with that chin up. You know, I called that fight with Puna so clearly. So Puna's going to get him and he's going to put him away, and it's not going to be a fun night for him. I just don't think Maki's the same fighter as Puna is. I think Puna's way faster. I think he's way more aggressive. He's a better wrestler. I just think he's better than Maki is. So if anyone has the style to beat Maki, I think it's Dusko. Again, not my favorite on the card, but I do like Dusko here.
No, I think that's a clear assessment. And you guys are going to see there's three real things that Brandon and I are talking about for the most part today. Cardio, basics, fundamentals. Everybody likes to get, his footwork and his combos and he's dynamic and he throws flying knees or this and that and his power. Fundamentals win fights. And you hear me say it all the time. The fighters hear me say it. It's not who's better. It's who fucks up first. And I mean, the person, you don't need fundamentals necessarily, round one. You can slip a punch by being athletic and fast and move and all this stuff. Well, round two, all of that speed and athleticism goes away. Not all of it, but a good majority of it. And now you better just have your chin down, have your head off center line, and do the right things. Because, I mean, you can't stay that fast and that sharp for that long. It's who's better. So you've got cardio, you've got fundamentals, and then you have fight IQ. It really comes down to somebody is shooting in, and you've got some choices. Do you sprawl and defend the takedown and move off of the cage, or do you grab the neck and jump for a guillotine? And that is the biggest fight IQ stuff. Or do you have them hurt and then you shoot in? Things like that. And this whole card is kind of those three things. And yeah, we see it a lot. But we don't have these major stylistic matchups that we see in some other fights. So style and honestly, like, the technical aspects, how they match up, aren't as big of a deal in this, because it really comes down to fundamentals and cardio and fight IQ for almost every single fight on this card. So whether you agree with me on my picks or Brandon on his picks or anything, go look for those three things, and you guys are going to see there's a very, very distinctive pattern. And the person, this, but, sometimes I shoot. Well, it's been a while, but I like photography as a hobby. And every once in a while I'll shoot some boxing fights. And I was at a boxing fight shooting an event. And, I'm going through the pictures afterwards. And I'm going through a couple thousand pictures after a fight, 10, I forget how many fights are on the card, all of these cards. But you could almost see like a picture show, like frame by frame of the winners and the losers. And every single winner, I mean, they're on balance. They're throwing a jab. They're on balance. Their chin is tucked. They're narrow, heads off center line, returning stuff, returning hands to their face. I mean, it was like a picture book of all the things to do right. And every single loser, I don't mean most of them, I mean every single loser on that card, they're reaching with their jab. Their chin's a little bit more in the air. They're swinging and over-rotating just a little bit more. And you see those mistakes again and again and again and again. In 100 mistakes over the course of 15, 20, 25 minutes equals a loss. And 100 things done well, little by little by little by little, means a win. I mean, it's football, You run the ball 3 yards at a time, 5 yards at a time, short passes, you get first downs. 10 yards is a first down. But if you're just throwing Hail Marys the whole time, you're probably not going to win a football game. So anyway, that's my diatribe on that. If you guys really want to take note, if you guys really want to get better, watch those things during these fights, and you're going to see a pattern. It's not a mistake. There's an absolute pattern.
And you know what's interesting about this one too, guys? So one thing I noticed about Maki, right? Maki looks so great on the mitts. And people fall in love with the mitt work. They fall in love with the technique. They fall in love with these things, which are important. But if you notice, a lot of the people that we're picking here make less mistakes in this MMA game. And we mean that by not gassing out, by not overextending their energy. We're picking guys that are not as good because they have better cardio and make better decisions over the course of 100%. Minutes. I mean, you talked about that with Morono, right? Morono's not as good as Gall, but makes better decisions and better cardio
over 15 minutes.
And I think, yeah. And one last little piece on Dusko here, because I said this about Gregory Rodriguez when he was fighting his last time. People were nervous for Gregory Rodriguez. They're nervous to engage the grappling with him because of his jiu-jitsu accolades. Maki doesn't have those same jiu-jitsu accolades. I don't think Dusko is going to be scared to wrestle him, and I actually think Dusko's best attribute is his wrestling and his cardio. I think he's got a clear path to victory here by making less mistakes. Like we're saying, better cardio. I think that's the way.
Now, speaking of less mistakes, are you even going to be able to handle these next two fights? We have Brendan Allen is fighting Chris Curtis, and Jimmy Crute is fighting Jamal Hill. Do you need a minute to get to where?
I got to warm up.
I mean, like, what do you do? Like, what? How does this even happen? If Choi was fighting on this card as well,
and Jacoby,
I think something's getting impregnated. I don't know what, but it's so Brendan Allen, Chris Curtis. God, I fought you on Brendan Allen and Puna.
Please give me my props. I'm ready for
it.
Please.
I thought Puna, I thought a Hawaiian would.
Tell me about Puna's striking.
A Hawaiian would have gotten their cardio a little bit under control. And I'm wrong. Besides Max Holloway, I almost wonder if Max Holloway is Hawaiian. Like, I don't think that you can have that good of cardio and be Hawaiian. It doesn't make sense. And, so, man, Brendan Allen makes the right choices. He is clean. He's one of those guys.
And how beautiful was his striking in his last fight?
Sharp. I love he's not reaching back. He's not overextending. He's shelling up well, just like Peter Yan, shelling up, taking his time.
His feints and his slips and his pulls.
But the thing that impressed me the most about him is he's fighting Puna, who's a big, heavy puncher, throwing haymakers, and he's as calm in the pocket. It's like he'd taken a Valium and drank a beer and was just hands up, right at his face, just like, oh, I'm not getting hit.
He is from Louisiana. That's just called a morning coffee.
I mean, I was really impressed. He makes the right decisions. And he's one of those guys that's been at Sanford for a long time. Kind of, at the beginning. Yeah, he's a mainstay. He doesn't just show up for camp. He's been there for a long time. I like him here. I think he's clean. I think Chris Curtis is actually tough.
Tough guy.
He's very good.
Guy.
He's very tough. He's got some good wins, man. That Phil Hawes fight. I mean, but with that said, Phil Hawes looked really, really good in that fight. And we see this a lot. We saw it with Gregor Gillespie. These wrestlers start to fall in love with their hands before they really should. And they get a little bit too comfortable in a fight. He fought Kevin Lee. He looked good. He was jabbing. His head's offline. He's moving. He's like, oh, man, I know what I'm doing here with this striking stuff. Until a much better striker found their mark. And that was Phil Hawes, I think, in that fight. He had really good success. He's very long. He's very athletic. He's very fast. And his striking looked really clean. And then he should have mixed in his wrestling a little bit. He fell in love with it, and he just wasn't quite ready to fall in love with it. Like I said, I think Chris Curtis is really tough here. I really like him. I just don't know. And he's on a streak. He's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight winning streak. He lost to Ray Cooper. There's no harm in that. And then Magomed Karimov twice in PFL. And then other than that, I mean, he's got big, long stretches of wins as well. Honestly, I really don't have much bad to say about Chris Curtis. I just really like Brendan Allen here. I think he's just clean. I think he makes all the right decisions. He's got a win over Kevin Holland, Tom Breeze, Kyle Dacus. He just beat Puna. I mean, honestly, these are two really good fighters. Brendan Allen is just a cleaner, smarter, well-conditioned fighter here. I think it comes down to not a close fight. I think it comes down to a competitive fight that goes the distance. And I think you see a a Canelo Mayweather, any high level boxing fight. Cambosos just fought I guess Teofimo. I mean, that was a close fight right there. Um, I think that's the way it is. I think it's the sharper fighter for 15 minutes wins this, and that's Brendan Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is going to hurt my heart to say because God, I've been on Chris Curtis longer than anybody, like straight up longer than anybody. Somebody actually messaged me after he beat Phil Haas, and he goes, "You said that you really like Chris Curtis," and they're like, "I bet on him because you said that." I don't remember saying that on the podcast, but I know in my heart of hearts, I love Chris Curtis, and I never picked against him. And why? Because he's an ultra veteran. He's as smart as it comes. I actually bet over 1 round in that fight. That was the only way I was going to take it because I didn't fathom that he could knock out Phil Haas in 1 round. I thought, okay, it's going to go to deep waters, and it's actually going to be a close fight. The most fascinating thing in watching that fight was, to me, whose striking did Phil Haas look the most like?
Man, I don't know. I mean, it was super long and sharp.
It's a trick question. It's Brendan Allen.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like,
well, I mean, if you look at them, right, they're the two mainstays. Those are your core guys at Sanford. And watching Phil Haas, I'm going, man, his striking looks just like Brendan Allen's. How long he's extending his punches, how he's slipping afterwards every single time. He's covering. Everything looked beautiful. And I'm like, oh, this is Brendan Allen versus Puna. He's looking amazing. Now you get Brendan Allen, who's got better cardio. He's much taller, much longer. He's a phenomenal black belt. Like, his jiu-jitsu is legitimately very, very good. LFA champion, less cardio issues. I think this is going to be a continuation of what we saw in that fight over 3 rounds in complete domination with better skills and a better MMA fighter in total.
I could see that. And he's young still, man. He's 25 years old. That is just insane that he is that good at that age. I think he's just getting better and better too. I'm high on
that kind of stuff. Makes me so sad. I'm 25 and I think that I'm solid. I think I've had a lot of experience, and then I look at somebody like Brendan Allen and I'm like, man, this kid is just so good.
And Chris Curtis is no spring chicken. He's 34. It's not over that limit yet, but he does have a lot of fights, and he's older. Just that amount of wear on your body in the gym, like, what does that do to you over that course? Yeah, I like Brendan Allen here. I think any of the bets you I don't know if he finishes. I think fight goes over round, fight goes over 2 in a round, or 2.5, and then I think a win by Brendan Allen straight up. I think are all good solid bets here.
And last thing too is 2 weight cuts in a really short amount of time. Yeah,
that's true. Yep.
For Chris
Which
Curtis.
I don't know if that takes as much of a toll on the heavier weight classes as it does the smaller weight classes, but it is something to note. Yeah.
Just a little.
And now, I mean, I feel like what we just did was the opening act. Like, we just got the audience, or you, just kind of warmed up, ready to really talk about what is next. Are you ready for this?
You know what? I feel like everybody's going to be in for a letdown because let me say this. When I first started this, right, and you told me, hey, you can do this. Let's see when this fight was. I linked up with my friend UFC Shark. He actually invited me out to Florida for the very first fight with fans back in the audience. Oh, pardon me. Which was Usman versus Masvidal 2. And this was
in April.
In April. So actually, this was actually a little bit before, when I was still messing around. And the first fighter that I had found out of everybody that hit every check mark for me, that made my list, was Jimmy Crute. Now, every single day, twice a day, I have messaged Jimmy Crute on Instagram. Jimmy, notice me. I'm going to put 20K on you. Jimmy Crute. And he's ignored every single message. So,
and wait. Rightfully so.
Yeah, Mason Jones, I see you too. You know what? You go ahead and take the lead on this one.
Man, All right, so we got to talk about the last one, and that was Anthony Smith, okay? And that was a complete abomination of everything fighting. I mean, his leg was fine. It got that nerve. He got hit in that leg, had no nerve. I mean, that nerve was like turned off. Jello leg, taking Anthony Smith down, beating him up, and they stopped the
Almost finished the
almost
fight.
finished the fight with one leg, and then they stop it in between rounds. I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry. Um, Man, and Paul or Jamal Hill, he lost to Paul Craig. Was that here in Phoenix? Where was that? Yeah, that was Gila River. That was here in Phoenix because I remember that arm breaking. We had Eric Anders on that card,
Oh,
um, which was a weird um, arm break. I mean, when's the last time you've seen something like that? I mean, I mean, Jacare
brutal.
just had that arm break. I guess we've seen a couple of them recently. Um, I like Jamal Hill. I just don't think he's even remotely on the just on the level of Jimmy Crute. Like you said, I think Jimmy Crute does everything well. He checks all of the boxes. I think that leg kick was a freak accident, and I don't see him losing two in a row.
Totally agree. And you know what's funny is Anthony Smith said if he got kicked one more time, that would have been him from Jimmy's leg kicks. Now, there's one thing that's going to disturb me about this fight, and I am so glad the odds are so close. I thought originally when this book, Jimmy was like minus 300, and I was saving up $30,000 to go put on Jimmy Crute. Now the line is almost dead even, which is shocking to me. Um, so let's just quickly look at this. So we saw how good Mikhail Olekjashik was, the Polish guy, how good he looked in his last fight against the Russian. He Kimura'd him in one round. And then we saw Modestas Buskauskas. He knocked him out one round. We've seen him knock out Sam Alvey. We saw him Kimura the jiu-jitsu master Paul Craig. I mean, he does everything well. And I think what's important, I would probably give the cardio edge to Jamal Hill, right? That's how Jamal Hill's path to victory is here, as Jimmy gets tired and starts getting picked apart on the feet. But Jimmy will give the last ounce of energy that he has in his entire body to, at the very least, end up on top in a scramble, and then he will rest there, which is so important. That is one of the most important attributes that you can possibly have. So is his striking as fast as Jamal? Absolutely not. The part that worries me is if Jimmy gets in his own head and he wants to stand there and strike with Jamal, I think that's a much different fight. The second he engages in any kind of grappling or any kind of takedowns, I mean, that is going to be a quick night, especially how rudimentary Jamal Hill's jiu-jitsu and his grappling is. Um, Jimmy checks all the boxes. I think this one, don't overthink it. I think Jimmy's smart enough to know his path to victory here, and I think he's going to follow
You
that.
said it best. It's don't overthink it. He needs to know his path to victory, and that path to victory is grappling. And I think Jimmy Crute is smart enough, especially after that last. You see this a lot. Somebody gets knocked out, they turn into a wrestler. We saw it with Marlon Moraes after the wheel kick, after Sandhagen knocked him out. He immediately shot on Rob Font. I think Jimmy Crute, whether it's out of intelligence or fear, I think he's going to grapple early. And I think because of that, I think it's kind of a shoe-in victory for him.
The saddest part about that fight wasn't even the leg kicks to me. Watching it live, man, Jimmy Crute was getting hit so many times. Now, watching it back on the replay, they were like, yeah, he's catching Anthony too. That was the thing that really concerned me because to me, I will fade Anthony until I go bankrupt. I just don't think he's very good, and he always finds a way to win, which is crazy. But Jamal's hands are so much faster than Anthony's and sharper than Anthony's. That part concerns me a little bit. So I feel comfortable putting my money behind Jimmy because we just have to have him fight a good fight and not do something. If that makes
he's
sense.
got to just. It's Damian Maia when Damian Maia had that stint where he thought he was a striker. Didn't go well for him, and then he was like, all right, I'm a grappler, and then started winning again. This is Jimmy Crute. If he knows, if he goes out there, does what he knows he can do, this is his fight. And if he doesn't, then that's one of those things like all right, now you got to start dropping his stock because the IQ level goes down. He knows where he's good. It's
Yep.
Haney Yaya. He's not very good in so many aspects of fighting, but he knows how to win a fight. And just knowing how to win, um, man, I mean that's fight IQ. That's right up there with um, cardio. I mean that's as Brian Ortega, man. That guy will be losing fights every which way, but he knows how to win a damn fight. I think Jimmy Crute's going to know how to win a fight this weekend.
Okay, now this next one, I am so interested to hear what you say on this one. So you've had the pleasure of coaching against Mr. Clay Guida, and I know how big of a Leo Santos is it
Yeah,
Leo
Leo
Santos?
Santos.
Leonardo Santos fan that you
Oh
are.
my gosh.
So go ahead and kick this one off. Clay Guida,
I
Leo
love
Santos.
Guida. I was actually offered a fight with Guida years ago before either of us were in the UFC. I've known him for a long time. My wife was, is a big fan. I remember it was at the UFC PI, and Clay and I are sitting at the front desk. I don't know why he was watching the freaking front desk at the PI, and my wife knocks on the door, was looking for me, and Clay answered the door, and she's like, Clay Guida just answered the door. I mean, she was like as starstruck as you've ever seen a human. He's a great human. I love watching him fight. His cardio. Uh, Clay's awesome. And then you know how big I've been on Leo Santos forever. He is solid. I mean, honestly, who was it? Was it Grant Dawson that knocked him out
Grant
right at the
Dawson.
end? Where Leo Santos was winning that fight. All he had to do.
Oh,
Oh,
he
actually,
wasn't.
on the cards, you're right. Grant Dawson was winning,
He was down on
which
every
is
card. Yeah.
I
I
thought
thought
he
he was winning.
absolutely won those rounds. So that was just bad judging. That said, Grant Dawson is young and hungry and tough. Um, and let me see. Leo Santos is 41 years old. Okay, he has a 75, and he's 18-4. All right, Clay Guida, I think, is 39. I think he's my age. Yeah, he's 39. He'll turn 40 a couple of days before this fight. He's 5'7". Um, I what was always the biggest thing with Clay Guida was this cardio, and he would grind and grind and grind, but he would get hit a lot and get clipped and get submitted or knocked out. He'd get submitted after being rocked. I just really like Leo Santos's everything about him, his game plan, everything. He's smart. He defends the takedowns well. He's tall. He's got a good jab. His jiu-jitsu is very solid. Um, I think the only way Clay can win this is to take him down again and again and win a decision. I don't think he's going to win. He's not going to stop him striking. He's not going to stop him. He's not going to submit him. But Leo Santos has really good defensive cage wrestling, really good fight IQ, a really good jab. I think he's going to honestly do what Mark Madsen did, who I cornered Mark against Clay. Um, they had a good 2 first rounds, and then the third round, Mark actually in to Clay's defense, Mark is an Olympic silver medalist. He's a Greco Olympian, and our game plan for was to take Clay down. I mean, just Mark in the clinch is insane. He's unbelievable. He's a hard human to deal with. Even shooting, his wrestling shots are great. His power is phenomenal. It's unreal. And we couldn't pin Clay on the cage at all. Clay did a really good job of game planning to avoid any underhooks. He just anti-wrestled. He would not grab Mark, and we ended up having to adjust on the fly. Mark's jab was working. So in between the second and the third round, I said, don't even try and take him down. I said, if you want to push him against the fence, push him and bully him a little bit, but just use that jab. It's working. Um, but Clay game planned that well. So he's still, everybody kind of thinks of him as a ape, a caveman over there just kind of brawling. But they had a smart game plan going into that fight. So I'm curious to see what their game plan is against Santos. But Santos is tall. He's lanky. He moves well. Um, I see him winning this fight. I don't even think it's going to be um, not to say I don't think it's competitive, but I think it's a clear victory for Leo. Um, it'll probably go to a decision, but I think it'll be a kind of a 30-27 type of situation.
Yeah, I totally, totally, totally agree with you. You got me on the Leo train. I think if Grant Dawson had a tough time taking down Leo Santos over and over and over again, I think so is Clay. I mean, that's a really good fight comp, to be honest. I mean, that's somebody who's relentless, who comes forward and shoots takedowns nonstop. And on the feet, we saw Leo Santos winning. And I'm with you. I love this fight. I love this spot. Leo Santos is 41, but he's a young 41. He doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. His fight style's never really been that dangerous. Um, I think I love this fight spot here. I think this is a great opportunity.
What are the odds on this one?
Let's
because I do like
out.
this. I like Leo.
We have Leo's minus 190 and Clay plus 155. It's not bad.
Those aren't bad odds. Also, you had the plus over round over 2.5. I don't see this fight.
That's got to be a lock.
I don't think either of these guys have finished a fight in, probably 6 decades combined.
All right, now we got the fun ones.
This is a really, really, really fun fight. Brad Riddell. That one's up, right? Did I skip one? Okay.
Yeah.
Brad Riddell and Raphael Fiziev. And neither of these guys both fight way above their actual MMA fights. Fiziev's 10-1, Brad Riddell is 10-1. They have equal records. You'd think they have like 60 kickboxing fights each or something. And they do. What's funny, though, is their styles are different. Fiziev, actually almost all of his fights are traditional Muay Thai fights. A lot of fights in Thailand, and he is a traditional Thai fighter. I want to say he moves like a Thai fighter because he does, but then he also has that switch stance flowiness about him as well. So he kind of, as weird as it is, you definitely see the hints of traditional Muay Thai in his style, but then he definitely has a flowiness and has that boxing and just a swagger to him that's not indicative of the traditional Thai style. Riddell, on the other hand, is a glory kickboxing vet. I mean, fought Cedric Doumbé for, I think twice. I know once. It might have been twice. Lost a relatively close decision. Cedric is solid. He's got a win over John Wayne Parr, who's not the John Wayne Parr of 15 years ago, but is still.
Doesn't Cedric Doumbé have a few wins over Nicky Holskin? I think that's the one you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Brad Riddell, he's got a win over John Wayne Parr. Decision with Cedric Doumbé. I mean, honestly, but he's a glory style kickboxer, and generally, I wouldn't even say that. I would say generally the old style K1 Max fights were really good. I think transitionally into MMA. Lots of hands, lots of kicks. The glory fights now, I don't know if they transfer over as much. It's like you shell up. I'm going to throw left hook, right hook, kick. And now your turn. You throw left hook, right hook, kick. I think with the big gloves, I think you can get away with a lot more in the glory fights today. Whereas in Muay Thai, in traditional Muay Thai, I think it's not so shell up and go. So there's that. The real question for me, I have 2 questions here with this fight, and this is what I'm looking at. Cardio is one. We've talked about that before. Riddell is kind of a slow starter. Fiziev is kind of a fast starter. Riddell, about halfway through the second round, starts to really come on strong, and he's really coming on strong in that third round. Fiziev starts out really well in the first round. Midway through the second round, he starts to fade a little bit. So the 2 things, I think this fight goes to decision. Does Fiziev get far enough ahead before Riddell's cardio starts to take over and the tide starts to shift? I think Riddell will probably win round 3. I think Fiziev will probably win round 1. And I think it's somewhere in round 2, it's how does that tide shift? Where does that tide shift? Okay, and that's where I'm at in overall. On a technical level, the real question to me is the speed of Fiziev. Brad Riddell does not handle speed well. Okay, not that he doesn't handle it well, but that's what he has a hard time with. Drew Dober, when he was firing those fast shots right down the middle, they were connecting on Riddell and they were dropping him. Riddell turned into a wrestler a couple times in that fight because he had to, because the speed of Drew Dober was something it was hard for him to handle. Fiziev has that same speed. He really is fast. Um, and that is my big question there. What's your thought on the breakdown of the fight, how it goes out?
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you more. Uh, no, I could. I think Fiziev is maybe the best striker I have ever seen in my life. I mean, you see a lot of good strikers, and Glory is one of my favorite promotions out of any sport to watch. I'm obsessed with it. I will spend hours watching Bazooka Joe and all of these guys. I'm obsessed with it. Fiziev is seven places ahead of you at any given time. He knows every single thing that you're going to throw, and I've never seen anything like it. And I don't know how he does it. To me, Brad Riddell is so good, and he's going to win so many fights. I mean, the guy is amazing because he's got a couple things. He's got grit, he's got a phenomenal chin, and he hits like a truck, and he can gain respect, and he does everything else well. These are two guys, like we talked about earlier with Chris Curtis and Brendan Allen. These are two guys that they are veterans. They do everything correctly. There is no mistakes. There's no fatal flaws between either of them. We can talk about the cardio, but to be honest, I think Fiziev actually has great cardio for how he fights. I mean, he should be a one-round fighter, and he can go 2.5. Even
so I have
as
to interrupt right there. I don't think Fiziev has bad cardio at all. Not even remotely. I think Fiziev's cardio is actually very good. I think in those fast, crazy style fights, we saw it with Bobby Green, he's just not as active and not quite as sharp and not quite as imposing around the end of the second round, in the end of the third round, as he is in the first round, because he's very, very, very dynamic and very imposing in that first round. And he does slow down a little bit in relation to himself. I do not think it's bad at all. That said,
totally agree. I'll just say this about the Bobby Green fight, and we've said this a lot of times. We even said it breaking down Bobby Green last time. Bobby Green is not a normal person to fight. Bobby Green is not there to be hit ever. And when you get a guy like Fiziev, who is used to knocking everybody out, and he is 10 steps ahead of you, and then he fights a guy who doesn't fight you like a normal person, and he's still there at the end of round 2 after taking every shot that you've had, and now you're still getting hit, it's going to slow you down a little bit. Now you start thinking like, okay, what's going wrong here? Why can't I connect with this guy? Why is this fight not going the way that I want it to? I love Brad Riddell. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's amazing. He checks all the boxes. He's got these really short arms, and he keeps them so low all the time. I think Fiziev is 10 steps ahead of him at all times. Like you said, I think Riddell's good, but he's a little bit rudimentary. It's take turns. It's rudimentary, where Fiziev is 10 steps ahead of you. He's so powerful. He's so explosive. The part I disagree with you on is going the distance. I think with how many times that Brad Riddell has been rocked in his career, if there's anybody on earth that's going to put him out, it is absolutely Raphael.
I could see that. I could see that. Do you think the wrestling has anything to play? Because I think Riddell is going to end up wrestling a lot in this fight. Do you think that will? I mean, Fiziev is a good wrestler. Do you think that wears? Do you think that wears on his cardio
wrestler.
At all?
No, not at all. Because I think these guys actually cardio-wise are about the same. I mean, if you look at both of them, they both slow a little bit. The thing that Brad Riddell has is he has that grit. He will push past his limits even when he's dog-tired. I don't think it's enough to get Fiziev down on either side. I don't think either of them's grappling is going to be important. They're both good enough takedown defense. I think it'll be strictly striking.
It's actually amazing how good of wrestlers both of these guys are, with how good of strikers both of these guys are. I
these are the two best guys in the division.
These guys are really, really good. I think Fiziev wins this with that. You said it. I mean, his movement, he just has something special about him. The way that he moves, his kicks, he's so he's so many steps ahead. All that said, I think it really comes down to something very simple, and that's just clean punches, yes, but the speed. I think the speed of him um, is. I think he's going to find Riddell's chin, and you're right. I mean, Riddell has been hit a lot. Um, I don't know if he gets finished, but I definitely think he gets dropped quite a few times. I think he's going to get dropped, but I think his wrestling, I think he's going to end up pulling some wrestling. I kind of like the Drew Dober fight. He's going to end up getting hit. I think it's going to be Drew Dober and him all over again, except for him losing this affair against Fiziev, who ends up finding his mark quite a bit on him.
Now, this is horrible MMA math, but okay. You look at Brad. First of all, Brad Riddell's been rocked in like every single fight he's ever been in. Every fight, like he gets rocked and still looks great. Um, I think of the speed of Drew Dober, and I think of how far Dober's come. He looks great. He's a very complete fighter. He's a tough test to get by. But I think of the speed, and I think of the power, and just in general, the striking of Drew Dober. And then I think of Fiziev. If Dober can do that to Riddell with basic ones and twos, now Riddell's going to get hit from angles that he's never seen before with body kicks. That is what Fiziev is the best at, is that liver kick. His switch kick is
fast.
Is phenomenal.
It is fast.
I actually think that's going to, yeah. I think the calf kicks and the body kicks are going to wear on Riddell so much, and then he gets hit from an angle he's never seen in his life from Fiziev. The power and the speed compared to Dober.
You think so? You think he finishes him?
Oh, I think I can't wait to see this fight. I hope he doesn't, because I want 3 rounds of this. But I think Fiziev is the man. There's something special.
I think
about
Fiziev wins it. The speed, the movement. It's a fun fight. That is definitely a fun fight. Now, all right, main event time. Rob Font, Jose Aldo. Man, I like this fight. I like this whole card. I really do. There's a lot of good fights on this card. And this is another one of those fights that I just think we're going to be on the edge of our seat, I think, for 25 minutes.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, they both fight very slow, very methodically. They're thinkers, and they're so good.
So I got to just, what do you mean by slow? You mean just in the terms of their brains and what's going on, or what?
Yeah, they don't blitz forward. They're not insane power punchers. They think about everything.
See, I think I think about that with Aldo a little bit these days. He's not, as weird as it is, he's one of the most athletic, dynamic guys probably in the sport ever. And I don't even think of him as a power puncher anymore. And I think that's his own doing, because I think he's worried about his cardio. And I think but I said it earlier, you get these guys who have this many, so many fights, and they don't go in there for the finish round 1 anymore, and they end up trying to point fight each other, and because they've been there, they've had cardio issues, and so they slow it down a little. I think Aldo might be one of the most impressive fighters we have ever seen in every department who is that good everywhere? I mean, honestly, even at a level, you look at a guy like John Jones, who's out, he's been training with us for a bit, and what he does is so impressive, but John Jones isn't. I mean, you look at Aldo, he's world-class kickboxer, but his boxing is almost as good as his kickboxing. His jiu-jitsu is almost as good as his kickboxing. His wrestling takedown defense is that good. His wrestling offense is that good. His knees, he's athletic, he's dynamic. He is a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 pretty much on a technical level everywhere that you can go in the sport.
He can hang with the best guys in the world in every single martial art, which is
it's insane.
Unbelievable.
And then on the other side of that, you have Rob Font, who I think Rob Font is calculated. I will give you that. But I don't know that he's slow in the sense of picks you apart, takes your time. He is in your face. and he is shoving that jab down your throat, forcing you to fight him from the get-go. He is on you, and he is not letting you breathe. He does not check leg kicks well, if at all. I don't know if I've ever seen him actually check a leg kick. His wrestling is probably, I mean, this, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, because I watched the Cody
So
Garbrandt
with that,
fight.
but his wrestling, for being as highly ranked of a guy as he is, okay, outside of Anthony Smith, I don't know who's in the top 10 and has worse wrestling than those two guys. The difference, though, Anthony Smith will stay on his back, and Rob Font is moving and wiggling and creating a scramble, and he will pop back up. He is not just going to lay there and accept the position, and he will keep getting back up. The other thing about Rob Font, look at his hands. They are the size of cinder blocks. I mean, those things are they're like Ngannou-sized hands. He has sledgehammers for hands. I like his fight IQ. I actually like the way he shells up. People swing on him. Look at Peter Yan. Look at Brendan Allen. He's calm in the pocket. He's calm under pressure. He is not phased. I really like Rob Font as a striker. I think he has some major holes in his kicking game and in his wrestling game. His jiu-jitsu is definitely better than his wrestling. And then you have Aldo on the other side, who's just as good everywhere as you can get everywhere. What's your analysis on the technical side of these two?
Man, I needed to spend a lot more time with this fight before the breakdown. Just in all honesty, the only Rob Font fight I've ever seen was the Cody Garbrandt fight. And in retrospect, you really look at Cody Garbrandt, Marlon Moraes, these last couple wins, and they're getting sour. They're getting sour. You're starting to see like, oh wait, all it took to beat Cody Garbrandt was patience and a jab. That was it. You know what I mean? Like Cody Garbrandt's the most explosive, talented guy on earth, and Rob Font is a perfect 5-round fighter. I think he's a much better 5-round fighter than he is a 3-round fighter. And I guess what worries me with this fight, so like we said, Aldo's a legend of the sport. I don't care what anyone says. In his heyday, he's the best 145er on earth. Max Holloway, I mean, maybe Max has taken that now, but beside the point. But what I'm worried about in this fight is that Rob Font can do to Aldo what Peter Yan did to Aldo and just stay there. And finally, it's going to break loose.
I agree with you 100%. And I love Aldo. Even if we look at Aldo, his only losses are Peter Yan in round 5, Marlon Moraes, which is bullshit. He won that fight. And then you have Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway twice. I mean, those are really, I mean, that's insane. That is insane that those are his losses. The thing that worries me actually about Aldo are his last 2 wins, were Pedro Munoz and Marlon Vera. The Marlon Vera fight, if I remember correctly, I think it was probably 1-1 going into the 3rd round. It's a 3-round fight. Aldo just wrestled him the 3rd round. Didn't even wrestle him, just took his back, hung on his back, and was kind of there for the end. But Vera was winning a lot of those exchanges. His volume, he was just there. He was fine. And he wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't picked apart. Same with Pedro Munoz. Aldo, I think, did better against Munoz than he did Vera standing. But my point is it went to a decision. He's not starching these guys. He's not beating them in unbelievable fashion. And I don't think he's going to be able to put Rob Font away in 3 rounds either. And then you go, well, did he get far enough, up on the scorecards before he starts really losing? And that's the question right here. Honestly, I think he's better than Rob Font probably everywhere. And just choices and cardio, I think Rob Font ends up winning this. I think it's nuts to say, because I really do think that Aldo is better everywhere. And I think, and this is a coin toss for me. This is a Cheyenne Buys, Mallory Martin one for me. But if you have a gun to my head, I think, and it's weird because Aldo has never lost a fight against a non-champion, but I think that Rob Font will probably end up being in. And the other thing about those two fights, Marlon Vera and Pedro Munoz, is that was a relatively slow pace. Those guys could not they weren't forcing. Marlon's kind of a slow starter as it is, so he's not going heavy round one. Pedro Munoz just kind of small. I don't, I thought Aldo had a good fight there. Rob Font is taller, he's longer, and he's going to be in Aldo's face for 25 minutes. He is not going to sit back. Um, I don't think that Rob Font is anywhere near a Volkanovski or a Max Holloway, but those guys were in Aldo's face nonstop, and I don't think Aldo likes that because of the cardio aspect anymore.
Yeah, so like we said, this is kind of built for a 5-round fight. I'm a little uncomfortable. I was not prepared to utter those words out of my mouth, like even thinking with a shadow of a doubt that Rob Font had a chance. And then I'm sitting here like looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I've never thought of Rob Font as this kind of guy. Now, did you watch the Rob Font Ricky Simone fight?
Yes. Um,
What
well,
happened
I
there?
mean, Ricky Simone. I was actually impressed with Rob Font's defensive wrestling and ability to scramble there because Ricky Simone went out there full mullet and everything. Um, I mean, nonstop pressure, force, everything, and Rob Font just handled that like a champ.
That win right there is so incredible to me because I actually need to add Ricky Simone to the list. Ricky Simone is incredible. I think he's only going to lose to the top 2 or 3 guys in the division from here on out. I mean, he is so good. So for Rob Font to beat Ricky Simone by something other than Ricky Simone, getting caught or slipping is amazing to me. And then you look at Sergio Pettis, and Sergio Pettis, what he's doing now, how clean, how slick he is. Honestly, kind of reminds me of a style like Aldo, where he's very reserved and a counterpuncher. That is an amazing win, especially in hindsight. Those wins are looking better and better.
And even Thomas
Now,
Almeida,
I will say Rob
he
Font's
beat Thomas
34.
Almeida before Thomas Almeida kind of had his big decline. Um, I mean, he's got really good wins.
Douglas De Andrade
Yeah,
and Matt Schnell, those are
those are
great
solid wins.
wins.
Now, I mean, you could argue though, um, Pedro Munoz, who Aldo just beat, has a very similar record. Munoz beat Jimmy Rivera, Cody Garbrandt, Brian Caraway, Brett Johns, Rob Font. Um,
I have been on Pedro forever. I think he is so good.
I think he's very good. Something slipped away from him. I thought he was on a title shot contention. And then I don't know if it's age or what, or Aljo, um, styles, matchups, what. I feel like he's kind of hit his peak. And Rob Font, the funny thing about it is Rob Font is um, same age as Jose Aldo. Everybody thinks, oh, Rob Font's the young up and comer. He's not. He just didn't start fighting when he was 4.
I just now saw that, and I was
It's
wowed
crazy,
by
right?
that. I
Yeah,
didn't know
but
he
he's
was
going
that
to have a
old.
reach on him. He's got a good jab. He moves well. He's got good power. He's going to attack the body. He shells up well. Honestly, I think if Aldo leg kicks him early, okay, that's a thing. Maybe you think, hopefully, their cornerman, Rob Font's cornerman, of course, they're working leg kicks. You're fighting Aldo. I think if he can check some of those leg kicks, and just pressure, honestly, it's crazy to say it.
That being said, when was the last time we saw Aldo
He's
throw a
actually
leg
been
kick?
bringing the leg kicks back quite a bit. He brings them back early and then forgets about them again. So he'll kind of he'll sprinkle them in here and there. Early, he's been throwing leg kicks again. Hell, look what he did with Peter Yan, throwing leg kicks, throwing middle kicks, really kickboxing. And then he kind of let go of those for whatever reason. And he's been doing that early in those fights. He's throwing leg kicks, and then he just kind of gets away from them. I don't know if they're tiring. I don't know if they're balanced. I don't know if he just falls in love with his hands. He's been ripping body shots lately like crazy. Aldo has. He got Moicano with those body shots. He got Jeremy Stevens with the body shots. Um, It just seems to be his go-to these days is his boxing, but he does a lot of waiting. He does not like to engage. And I think that's going to be hard against Font because I don't think Font's going to go out there swinging power punches. I think he's going to jab and move and jab and move. And that's going to force Aldo to have to take some risks and get into those firefights, which I don't think he wants to do. Not because he doesn't want a firefight, but he doesn't want the cardio issues that come with a firefight.
This is just this is the toughest one for me. I think the safest way to bet this is over, over 1.5, 2. If you're
What's a
feeling
5-round
crazy.
fight?
I think that's the best.
Yeah, I think
way
it's
to
a
bet
5-round fight, so you could go over 2, 3, 4. I mean, you could really go. I don't. Yeah,
I wouldn't.
Well, I
Though.
mean, I'm just saying if you want to get frisky with the odds, I think it's good all the way up until that third round. I think it's going into the third. I don't know if you want to bet more than that, but man, I think it's a coin toss. Gun to my head, I'm picking Rob Font from cardio alone.
So let me say this. The odds are telling you something, and I'm going to say the complete opposite and ignore it like a buffoon. But the odds are telling you Rob Font, not only is he a favorite, but he's a favorite over a UFC legend and somebody is widely regarded as one of the greatest fighters of all time. And they're the same age. The body of work is definitely to Aldo. He's got way better fights for a way longer time. And Rob Font is still the favorite, which is insane. So the odds are telling you Rob Font, not just because he's a favorite, but because of all the circumstances. And I still, I still, my heart wants Aldo so badly. And I'm not going to bet it a winner on that fight, but I'm going to stand on it. Let's go Aldo.
All right. Is that a solid Aldo, or I'm forcing you to choose? And
Not at all.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Technically, the one thing I saw technically in the Pedro Munoz fight, so Aldo did the most incredible job of checking the calf kicks, which is Munoz's favorite weapon, and he's so good at it. His boxing looked phenomenal, but what's so weird is like every time he was being defensive, his chin looked like it was just a hair away from getting nicked. And as a 35-year-old with a million miles on the car, with somebody who is taller and has that extra inch of reach,
everybody could.
That worries me.
Everybody
about
could
Rob
use
Font.
an extra inch.
That's right. So that part, that's right. So that part worries me a lot. Like just seeing that chin there, seeing the age, and I just don't want my heroes to die. But my brain says Rob Font, and my heart says Aldo.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm with you on both of those. I think my brain, I want Aldo to win, but I think Rob Font does it. I think he gets the job done. Well, that's it, man. We are over 2 hours right now. It's been a long one, but these are good fights. These are exciting fights. I really like this card. I can't wait for it. Remember, again, you guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our Patreon. We've got a lot of good stuff going on. We are giving away UFC jackets that I've worn in corners. I mean, we're giving away Luke Sanders, JP Pierce, Tracy Cortez, Eric Anders, Korean Zombie, Henry Cejudo. I mean, when are you guys going to get a...
Wait, who was that
Henry
last one?
Cejudo, have you heard of him?
Yeah, he was that WEC guy,
Might have
right?
been. So, so we're giving away some jackets for every 50 subscribers that we get on Patreon. Again, we just appreciate all the support. You can find me at Santino DeFranco on Instagram. Brandon is at Brandon Olives, Brandan, because he has two first names in a first name. And that's it. I think that's all we got for you. Brandon, you got anything else before we're out of here?
Yeah, just really quickly before we go, guys, I just want to give a shout out to Kyle Bochniak, the GOAT. And then second, guys, so we have been putting a link in the YouTube channels. So I think it says Revenue Network or something like that. So that is a link to Bovada. That is the site that I have used for years and years and years. What I do like about that fight is they have the best, the most lines, right? They'll give you more stuff, and they have a lot of local shows. So if you guys do want to subscribe to our Patreon, I recommend the highest tier. That is where you're going to get my journal. You're going to get extra content. You're going to get so many picks. But really, the money there is for the regional shows. So here's, if you guys want to support us, here's what I would do: sign up for our Patreon, the parlay tier. That's where you'll have the most content and the most stuff. Okay. Sign up through the link in our YouTube videos. We can put it on the Patreon. That will get you logged in with Bovada. Okay. And we will kill it on the regional shows. You guys are going to make up a year's worth of your membership in 1 week on the regional shows. So go through the Bovada link or the Revenue Network link, sign up for our Patreon, and let's get paid.
And honestly, I mean, go through some of the YouTube comments. You'll see some guys saying that they won $11,000 off us. Somebody said, "Oh, I paid this month's mortgage off of us." So, you know, I think we are worth the money. And, you know, again, it's fun. It gives us more time to do what we love, which, again, is just watching film. I mean, I'm probably over 15 hours of film time just this week on this card.
Can you guys tell by the black circles under our eyes? And you know what, guys, I'll say last piece here too. I have paid for everything before back in June when you said, "Hey, if you want to do this, you can do this for real," right? That June, I took $5,000. That's what my bankroll was at the time. And I put it to over 100K in 3 months. Now I've gone back and forth since then, right? So it's not all just sunshine and rainbows. It's gambling. But before that, guys, I had signed up with every capper, with every service, with every selection that you could do. Even my friends, people that I like, I lost every single time. You know, I have been there and done that. And the part that would make me the most mad was paying $150 and then still losing my bet on top of that, right? So our parlay tier is $25. I don't need your guys' money to make my own. I could go do this by myself and live a very quiet life. I want to help you guys out. You know, tips are appreciated. Everything is great. So let's all go make some money together.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next time. And you guys on the Patreon, look out for some more picks, some more content. See you guys soon.